Well, good evening and welcome to Queer News Tonight. This is the world's first and only LGBTQ plus daily evening television news. We're broadcasting live and then available on demand. We're available, of course, on all smart televisions, including Roku, Apple TV, Android TV, Amazon Fire Television, YouTube, and Facebook. It's time to queer up the news. It's Monday, February 13th, 2023, and we are live and literally out of the closet and into the headlines. So many of your important stories we're going to tell this evening on Queer News Tonight.
This is the world's first live daily LGBTQ evening news show, literally out of the closet and into the headlines on Queer News Tonight with Al Ferguson.
I'm your anchor at Queer News Tonight, Al Ferguson, and this evening we bring you the news of and a perspective representing the LGBTQ plus community from South Florida, America, and across our planet.
This is the world's first and only unedited live LGBTQ plus evening news show. Whatever happens unique in LGBTQ plus news, you will see it and hear it.
Happening Out Television Network is a 501c3 nonprofit media platform in the television and radio model of PBS and NPR, but designed for our LGBTQ plus community.
We are part of one of the largest LGBTQ plus media companies in America, Hotspots Magazine and Happening Out Television Network.
Our magazine is celebrating 38 years of the LGBTQ plus experience, and our television news, talk, and entertainment shows support our mission to educate the LGBTQ plus and broader communities.
Well, let's begin by welcoming anchor FayWhat. She's a radio and television personality and has a popular blog and YouTube channel aiming to unite the L and the G together. She's a hostess and MC for many South Florida events, an animal advocate, and owner of Fay's Fur Family. Also, make sure to catch the FayWhat Show, the first LGBTQ plus morning show, Mondays at 9 a.m. Eastern, or online or your smart television. Fay, by the way, was also the winner of the 2022 SFGN Best Local Television Personality. Welcome, Fay.
Welcome. I'm so happy to be here. What a great weekend we had at Part of the Americas, and now I'm sitting in front of you talking to all you dog lovers. Dog lovers out there, if you love your dog, get them chipped. Okay? A random stray dog just appeared at my house this morning because he knew I would take care of him. All right? No chip, no collar, no nothing. Do yourself a favor. Just get a collar and write your phone number big ass on it. Okay? Somebody finds your dog, they'll bring him back to you. That was my PSA. I am Bob Barker. All right. Next up, let's welcome Glen Weinzimer. Glen is my boy. I love him. Glen is the founder of the Smart Ride, an annual 2-day, 165-mile bicycle ride from Miami to Key West. The Smart Ride is celebrating its 20th consecutive year, providing funding for AIDS service organizations throughout Florida. Last year alone, over 10,000 individuals and organizations made donations to fight HIV/AIDS. In the past 19 years, more than $14.9 million, that's $1 million, has been raised and returned to help individuals at risk for by or infected by HIV live healthier, more fulfilled lives. Glen also owns Bona Italian restaurant with the best garlic rolls in the world, right in the heart of Wilton Manors. Bona Italian holds weekly Give Back Mondays. In the past 6 years, Bona has raised and returned over 60 grand to help local organizations meet their mission. If that's not enough, I've got more for you. Glen is a travel director and has crisscrossed the globe helping corporations hold their business meetings. Welcome back, Glen. Good to see you, Poppy.
Well, that's all the news time we have for tonight. Thank you, everyone, for joining me. Thank you, Faye, for that warm welcome.
I think when they said update your intro, I don't think they meant make it longer.
He does a lot.
Hey, I do have to get a plug in for Bona. Last night I have a friend from out of town here, and on commercial, not on commercial, on US 1, we went to Olive Garden. I was
on purpose?
On purpose? I was thinking about Bona. I assure you, every second.
I don't know why.
Blasphemy.
That makes sense.
Right.
Well, this past weekend was awesome. We took the entire planning team to Orlando to do a brainstorming weekend for the 20th anniversary. And you know what we do raises a lot of money, but there's other things that work and that make the event special. And sitting in a room with all of the agency reps and most of the execs and hearing them talk about things that we don't all recognize as an issue in our own individual communities, but affect. We came up with a simple T-shirt that said "No more names" is basically what it was, and how all of a sudden, as we got around to the agencies, they all responded differently. So it was just fascinating to see.
And equally important, 20th anniversary. What's the goal for November?
$2 million.
$2 million. So come on and help Smart Ride. Yeah, that's right.
Good stuff.
Okay, I'm still talking. I forgot. Okay, let's welcome anchor DJ Nena, resident DJ for Lit Bar, Wilton Manors, and our neighbor, and military veteran from New Jersey. DJ Nena has a BM in commercial music, technology, and an MA in English in creative writing. She has been a local DJ and music producer for the LGBTQ community of South Florida for over 20 years. Good evening, my friend DJ Nena.
Good evening, everybody, and happy Monday. I have some very exciting news for you guys. For all you local party goers, I am your resident DJ for Lit Bar, and so we've got Friday night 80s Retro Flashback Friday. All your favorite old school videos.
I just did it and had so much fun.
Were you in the video?
He does it.
What's it to you?
Saturdays, we also have Revolution Saturdays, and that is an open format, a little bit of everything. So according to whatever walks in the room is exactly what I'm going to cater to. And now we also have the all new Sundays. Kicking off this Sunday, we're now doing Beach Bum Sunday. So your Sunday fun day has just gotten a lot better. It's going to be island sounds, reggae, beach vibes. We should be limboing, a little bit of everything. So make it out this Sunday from 3 to 8 p.m. Now, I need to welcome my pal, my neighbor, Mr. John Hayden, a journalist for 28 years. He now works for several outlets, including South Florida Gay News, as a reporter and community editor, covering politics, entertainment, and local events directly impacting the LGBTQ plus community. John's interviewed everyone from presidents to Oscar winners. After Thunderpuss, Pride, and the superest of Super Bowls, the holiday weekend can't come soon enough. Welcome, John.
Thank you so much. And it can't, but I'm going to relish my time here with most of you. We are the reporters for Queer News Tonight. And
he was looking at you, Al. I don't know.
I think it's that thing, because that's usually where I am when I throw shade.
It's just hate, right? Throwing shade.
Tonight, we begin with the queer headlines. The LGBTQ plus community in South Florida and across America is diverse. Our community across the world is vast. And here are the bullet points of the queer news for today, Monday, February 13th, 2023, Valentine's Day Eve.
Galentine. This is the day that you take the side piece out because tomorrow you have to take the wife out. It's the truth. If somebody invited you out today, now you know you're the side piece. FayWhat just told you.
All right, let's queer up LGBTQ plus civil rights. Are you listening? Huckabee GOP State of the Union uses trans to say LGBTQ plus is not normal. Regardless of who wins the Republican nomination for president in 2024, Trump, DeSantis, or someone else who may emerge, it is clear what the LGBTQ plus community has in store from the rhetoric of the culture war and hate. This week was the first State of the Union where the GOP now has a slim margin in the House. Arkansas Governor and former Trump White House Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee minced no words over what's ahead for LGBT. After all, she is the first woman that led that state. She comes from one of the nation's most notorious evangelical families and noted Baptist preacher, father, and presidential candidate himself, Mike Huckabee. So this week, she paraded out his greatest hits and a few new ones of her own.
I'm the first woman to lead my state, and he's the first man to surrender his presidency to a woke mob that can't even tell you what a woman is. In the radical left's America, Washington taxes you and lights your hard-earned money on fire. But you get crushed with high gas prices, empty grocery shelves, and our children are taught to hate one another on account of their race, but not to love one another or our great country. Whether Joe Biden believes this madness or is simply too weak to resist it, his administration has been completely hijacked by the radical left. The dividing line in America is no longer between right or left. The choice is between normal or crazy.
Well, the most important battle cry is to frame you are either with the GOP or you are crazy. Representative democracy and compromise seems to no longer be needed or required, much less wanted. The battleground lines were drawn in contrast to President Biden. This week, Utah's Governor Spencer Cox discussed what he thinks is actually going on in this radical culture war in America.
How do you stop? It's mostly coming from your party. We saw there's over 299 bills that have been introduced, 2/3 of them this year alone, 2/3 of them target trans people. And again, 1/2 of 1%. You just made the point yourself. What is this obsession?
Well, I think it is a growing number. In fact, it's a vastly growing number. If you go back just 10 years ago and look at the numbers, and here's the problem. This has become such a toxic issue that it's hard to have a rational conversation around it. I actually had to look outside the United States to get data. I looked at what happened in Sweden, look what happened in Finland, look what the French are saying about this, the explosion that they're seeing in those numbers, and some concerns about this. It's not just about providing care or not providing care. It's about whether we might potentially be harming young people, not having enough evidence to see what the long-term results of this are, and providing better psychiatric help for those young people who are going through this.
But you took this power away from parents to make this decision. Are you comfortable with that?
Well, we take power away from on a lot of things involving our young people. If there is potential long-term harm for our kids, we need to find that. And what Utah did was just push pause until we can get better data. We have a mandate in the bill to go out and look at the best data all across the country and then make a decision.
You've talked about, I'm running out a little low on time, but there's a state senator in Kentucky who did a very impassioned speech earlier this week. Her son committed suicide.
Yeah.
Her son's trans.
Yeah.
And she was basically begging the legislature to stop these bills that are targeting, because it's making these folks feel like targets.
Yeah. And that's the hardest part of this. That breaks my heart. What we're doing is we're increasing funding for our LGBTQ community to help with these issues. And so it's, again, if we could get outside of the culture war piece of this and have these kind of rational conversations, I would feel much better about it. I fully admit there are people on my side of the aisle that are targeting these, that do not have their best interest at heart.
So Governor Huckabee claims of normal versus crazy is now the new normal from the leadership of the GOP. In 2010, for example, the same state that elected Bill Clinton governor made Mike Huckabee the longest-serving governor in the state's history. In 2010, his presidential aspirations were largely considered radical in the GOP. In 2023, they're red meat. We remind you of the Huckabee clan when he said about HIV, quote, "We should isolate the carriers," end quote. On gay marriage, he suggested judges who rule in favor of it should be impeached. Local ordinances protecting LGBTQ+ should not exist at all. Huckabee supports gay conversion therapy. And about the LGBTQ+ community, he said, quote, "We can get into the ick factor, but the fact is that two men in a relationship or two women in a relationship, biologically, that doesn't work the same," end quote. The Huckabees oppose LGBTQ+ adoption because, quote, "children aren't puppies," end quote. And the Huckabees want to bring us back to the good old days when he said, quote, "In our lifetimes, we've seen our country go from Barney Fife to Barney Frank," end quote. So that was the State of the Union minority voice this week, in February of 2023. The contrast seems to be very clear. It truly is a battle line between normal and crazy. It's interesting to me that they would select Huckabee. She's a woman. She's the first female governor of Arkansas. I think that they thought that gave them bonus points in standing up to Biden in contrast. But what was really surprising here is the Huckabee name as a brand in America is among the most evangelical conservatives in the country. When she was press secretary for Donald Trump, her voice was really, really clear. Her voice was more radical than Donald Trump's was as press secretary, and frequently was criticized for going too far over the line. And in just 2 years, that's who the Republicans would say in the first State of the Union, for him, with them taking control of the House by that slim majority of just 6 seats, or 8 seats, I believe, that her voice would do it. So they're literally throwing the gauntlet down and saying, this is who we are, this is what we are, and we would be really foolish not to believe them.
Mm-hmm. Well, you also have to remember, yes, this is red meat. She is trying to out DeSantis, who is busy out-Trumping Trump at this point. But the message, who was she talking to? She was talking to people who follow these events very closely, who hit refresh on Politico and The Hill on both open browsers multiple times a day. Yes, this is their message, but I think the choice of picking her goes a long way towards saying, because she's a recognizable face from the Trump administration, and to a lesser extent from her father's administration in Arkansas. They're saying this is the face we can put forward, and she wasn't fire breathing, she wasn't all of this. So for the people that they wanted to talk to, I think this is a bullseye. It's a complete miss for the vast majority of swing voters in swing states.
John, hearing that though, what is your feeling of her soundbite for LGBTQ? And she did lots of things, yeah. But her soundbite is it's our normalcy, we're normal, yeah. And everything else is crazy. What do you make of that? That's a radical position.
It's shocking, but not shocked. I mean, I've been paying attention the last few years to where the country is going and where Republican rhetoric has been going. And this really, it may be the first time that she said something this explicit, for lack of a better term. But this message has been out there for a while. They're just starting to crystallize it. And that's what we should be concerned, because they're starting to essentially focus group on the faithful.
Now you say it. Did it surprise anybody that she was willing to be so crystal clear? It's us, and that's it.
No, she was waiting for this opportunity, Al, and she was ready, willing, and able. And I think that if you would have given her this spot, during Trump time, she would have still been the same way. So, I mean, and let's talk about Spencer Cox. Like, oh my God, everything that was coming out of his mouth was just horror to me. It was making my ears bleed. Just isolate the folks that have AIDS. Okay, this is shit that we dealt with back in the 80s. And this is like, just to hear these words come out of somebody's mouth that is followed and respected scares the living crap out of me. It just really does. We shouldn't be able to adopt because children aren't puppies. Like, this is how low down the totem pole they think of us. They see us just like animals and worthless, crazy people.
And they want the rest of the world to see us that way because they spew lies. Where do they go to come up with people that they can treat children like puppies? We all know lots of gay couples that have children that are growing up just fine, if not better in some cases, than if they were in a heteronormal situation. And I just think for Huckabee, her voice, it was just angry. She's been wanting to be angry for a while, and she put it out there.
I'm curious to that point. Are we going to find a position to defend against this? I don't hear it currently, but are we going to find a place where we go, okay, this is how we're going to stand up and fight this? Because I don't know what that is yet.
I think there's a level of crazy that even the radicals are going, wait, that is just too much. We have neighbors and friends that are not like that. I don't know that, I'm hoping that they shoot themselves in the foot by taking such a strong stance, as opposed to a bigger fear would be for them to pretend to be moderate, and then we would not know what we're getting because they would never do that. Listen to them.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, and then, Spencer, he starts screaming about the science, that they need more data. They need more data, that he's going to other countries to collect the data. So get the freaking data, because the data's not there. All right. And if you follow science, then you need the data to follow science, So how are you going to have all these anti-LGBT that are mainly anti-trans, let's be real about it, without the science backing it? So, okay, so pay for the science then, because we need it.
But the thing is, trans issues are not anything that moderates vote on. This was dedicated to shoring up the red meat of the red base. It doesn't, moderates don't say, oh, she's really anti-trans and I guess I don't like, boys and women's bathrooms at school, so I'm going to vote for them. It doesn't affect them. And the same at our end of the scale. A lot of our allies, they still vote more with the pocketbook issues are still more important than trans. So this was really just about rallying at the start of a new Congress, which has started to falling flat on its face. This was just about rallying them up and saying, this is how we're going to lock you down, because they lost a lot of the hardcore red meat people in districts that they needed in Congress in the last election.
Yeah. Next, we queer up health. HIV giants clash as AHF calls out greedy Gilead.
Stop being greedy! Stop being greedy! Stop being greedy! Stop being greedy! Stop being greedy!
Mr. Daniel O'Day, you are too greedy. You have enough money. How much is enough?
We need you to lower the prices of your pharmaceutical HIV drugs. Many people are dying to get HIV treatment.
The research they're doing for the medication for people living with HIV, and I live with it, and our conditions, and let it go. Do right by us.
I want them to make every medicine affordable for everybody, everywhere, because we need it.
What I'm doing out here is that I'm protesting against Gilead and their greediness.
They're trying to mess with 340B that help our clients, that help clients like me. 340B is a program that doesn't affect the taxpayer. Why would Gilead try to focus on making it difficult to help patients? They're just so greedy.
AHF has taken its grassroots Gilead advocacy global, and AHF Mexico kicked it off this week with a protest at Gilead's Mexico City headquarters, demanding that the pharma giant put lives before profits. The Learn paired their demonstration with a Twitter rally, generating significant interaction with digital advocates, 1.1 million impressions and 50,000 engagements. Along with posters, protesters donned a list of actions the pharma company must take, including halting its patent monopoly on medicines to treat HIV/AIDS, hepatitis C, and COVID-19. Participants called out the company for its obscenely high drug prices while generating $27 billion and paying its CEO $19 million in 2021 alone. AHF Bureau Chief of Latin America and the Caribbean, Dr. Patricia Campos, said, quote, "We have a long history of challenging pharmaceutical companies, including Gilead, on their greed and profiting off the world's most vulnerable and sick people," end quote. AHF Mexico's actions are the first of many upcoming global initiatives to pressure Gilead to stop its greedy tactics. As per the protesters, Gilead's greed knows no end as it overprices life-saving drugs, refuses to register some medications in lower-income countries, and consistently blocks attempts to introduce cheaper generic versions of its medicines. Big pharma. It's not just Gilead that is doing this, obviously. And do we wish that there were cheaper, more accessible generic drugs to all drugs that people need right now? Of course we do. And making pharma accountable would be fantastic. Is anything going to come out of this? I'm not really sure.
So I have a couple of thoughts on this, on both sides. First I have to say that Gilead is the sponsor of the Smart Ride. I also have to say that AHF has been a sponsor of the Smart Ride. So there's an economic benefit to Smart Ride by both organizations. But AHF has had a history of suing. They've sued Johnson & Johnson's. They've sued the city of Baton Rouge. They've sued the city of Los Angeles. And it goes back to like 2008 and again in 2019. The dates just keep happening where there's doing the suing. Who benefits from those lawsuits? It's certainly, if they're protecting me, I'm not seeing that money. No. It's going back into the money that they have. On the other side of that, AHF is sponsoring all the things we care about. So whether it be Pride of the Americas or whether it be Pride Fort Lauderdale or the AIDS life cycle in California, a lot of that money is being thrown in from Gilead to these organizations. I am not big on the cost that they charge us, but we still want the research to go on. So if we pull their funding, are they going to pull and not care as much about our research? Mm-hmm. And then you go back to who's funding these 340Bs that AHF is getting its money from. It's the pharmaceutical companies that gave that money so that an AHF and a CAN and all these other organizations can exist.
I'm sorry, Glenn, what's a 340B?
340B is money that the pharmaceuticals put into that has created AHF. It's where most of their funding comes from. So it was from the profits that they're making. They all put money into the 340B, which is this huge pocket of money that a couple of years back, and probably 2 decades now, where AHF discovered this money, where Community Health in Florida discovered this money, and suddenly have these huge baskets of cash to throw around. So you're shooting yourself in the foot by attacking HF, or AHF attacking Gilead, which is giving them some of the funds, which is Johnson & Johnson is doing, and some of the others. So it's really an interesting story to be suing the people that feed you, and at the same time, the people that are also sponsoring a lot of the things that we couldn't do without that money, from both of them.
Now, every month I'm on Prep. I'm on Discovery, which is the child of the Truvada, which I also believe is Gilead. My insurance company will say, $2,600 for your monthly thing, copay and everything gets it down to like $10 a month or something like that. But a lot of this is like it was in Mexico. It's in second and third world countries where the government doesn't have these things programs set up where. We're the ones that kick in the money. They don't have the insurance companies that will pay for it, and so they rely on NGOs. The second thing to remember, though, on the other side is that it takes, and this was a couple years ago, so it's probably more, $2 billion to bring a market from concept inception to market. And that doesn't count all the failed attempts, the ones that die in phase 2 and phase 3.
Billion
dollars. So, and when we say 27 billion, I don't know if that was in total revenue or profit. If it was total revenue, well, that's just selling, but that's not counting for everything that they've had to pay out along the way. It's a tough issue. Americans generally overpay. We overpay for medicines because they're developed here, and they do get them cheaper in the Eurozone and Africa.
Keep in mind that who sets those prices? When Medicare agrees to pay for these drugs, they set the price that they're willing to pay. And when insurance companies agree to pay these prices, ultimately our monthly buy-in to these insurance are part of our policy. It goes up in price because they've agreed to pay them for this. So it's this, again, this whole circle. Like, you can blame the government for not being tighter on our drugs. They just made it so that diabetes drugs are only $30 a month, $3 a month, something crazy. We can't go higher than that.
Glenn, I want to ask you, it's interesting from your perspective of long history with Smart Ride. So you compare and contrast the two positions. That's really crystal clear. Who's going to win this argument? Is AHF going to win or Gilead going to win?
It's going to depend on when the 340B money runs out. No one fighting.
Is that any time close on the horizon?
They've been talking about it being short funds for probably 10 years, but yet they still somehow are pumping it out into the community. And a lot of the local agencies now have a piece of it. They have filed and learned how to. So some of their funding, when you've seen this growth in a lot of local organizations, it is part of the 340B money that they're getting that's allowing them to build a new building or expand their services.
Yeah, we forget, just to provide an exclamation point or a highlighter, AHF is getting ready next month to put on the Florida AIDS Walk. And, that is arguably a $2 million dollar match for so many organizations in LGBTQ community. It's confusing to me of who's wearing the white hats and who are wearing the black hats here. The one thing that gives me pause, which I don't like, and it makes me go, gosh, I've got to read and I've got to learn more, because I don't know enough about this issue, is the attack of how much money Gilead makes. Would we say that about a car company? Would we say that about, in various...
Is it coming from these drugs, or is it coming from their entire portfolio?
Yeah, exactly. And so we have to be extremely careful about the attack on corporate capitalism and their generation of profits. Those are two different things. And one of the things that frankly brings me to pause, if Gilead can justify their CEO making $19 million a year, there's probably a very, very good reason in the competitive nature of that CEO to be able to have a compensation package like that. I've seen compensation packages in $30 and $40 million based on compensation. Elon Musk, as example, and he's an extreme example, is because of the corporate value that they say from that seat. To attack the idea that you're not worth $19 million is a very dangerous argument because you are quantifying value only on a number, which frequently is not true in a corporate situation. And when you publicly are demonstrating that the CEO shouldn't make $19 million, that is very superficial in its summary. And then I wonder, wait, what other superficial summaries are taking place here? And so for me, I come away from this story because, to be honest with you, I'm not as informed as you are in this battle between AHF and Gilead, but it affects all of us.
Of course.
It affects our community. It affects HIV. It affects the research of cure, which is really the most important to us, and it affects the support of our LGBTQ community in so many different ways. This is a gigantic story for all of us, and I'm concerned that we would, as LGBT, get caught up in the nuances of the story as opposed to the impact on us, because it virtually impacts every single LGBT person that is listening to my voice. This is a big story.
And we all know that individuals are not paying those prices. You know, individuals are getting them from CAN, Community Health. They are getting it from AHF. They're getting it from Broward House, and they're getting it from all these other organizations that they're being supplied with these drugs. Or the insurance company, like in my case, my insurance company picks up the price of it. I don't know any individual that I know that's rich enough that could pay for all their medications. You know, there's one medication that's like $8,000 a month at one point. So you go, I take 13 pills. Like, how much can a rich person even pay?
Glenn, one last question. Sure. This demonstration took place in Mexico City. Have you heard anything like that going on here in U.S. or in South Florida?
Not recently, but I mean, it did happen in California. I mean, I remember hearing about it in San Francisco or New York and some of the bigger cities where they may have a bigger presence. And AHF has a big presence there.
Okay. There you go.
Wow. Let's go ahead and queer up drag culture. RuPaul's voice to Congressman George Santos. Sashay away.
Calma aí, eu preciso de um óculos que minha maquiagem borrou. Eu tô uau. O que aconteceu? A maquiagem borrou? Aconteceu, né? Porque a bandeira desorganizadíssima, muita pouca gente, subúrbio, né? Não é Rio, a bandeira não tem bofe nenhum. E tá cheio de travesti. Eu quero bofe aqui de baixo. Cadê vocês? Quero os bofes todos aqui. Você chega a se apresentar? Você faz apresentações? Eu faço apresentação na 1140, em Jacarepaguá. Faço em Cascadura, né? Egito. Já fiz na Cabaré Casa Nova, em Céu, na Glória, né? E já fiz uma na Leboy. E o que você está achando do evento? O evento está bem organizado. Gostei muito.
Democratic Representative Robert Garcia trolled fellow gay freshman lawmaker George Santos yesterday with a meme the serial liar should understand. His Twitter post showed RuPaul's meme flashing Katara and suggesting George Santos to sashay away. Katara was Santos's drag name. Garcia, who represents California's 42nd district, didn't come for Santos just with the memes. Yesterday, he sponsored a resolution to have the Republican fabulist expelled from Congress. Garcia told reporters outside Congress Santos's continued pattern of fraud and deception is especially worrisome to our own LGBTQ plus community, and it's time we act and immediately expel him from Congress, end quote. As Republicans now control the House, the resolution will likely fail even if it reaches the voting stage. Quizzed about Robert Garcia's objections to him, Santos told a reporter, quote, "I don't even know who Robert Garcia is," end quote. Recently, Santos was interviewed on Newsmax, where he again tried to downplay his lies and push them as resume embellishments. Claiming to want to set the record straight, he said he never worked for Goldman Sachs or Citigroup directly, but he did work through direct contracts for those firms. Now, Miss Lies-A-Lot, I really believe you should just exit quietly. That might be your best bet at this juncture.
Exit quietly. I don't think he knows how. Let's just talk about how this Robert Garcia and Santos look similar. Don't they look kind of alike? Is that the same picture that all congressmen take or something? I don't know. Like, right? Don't they look kind of similar?
Exactly.
Like, I thought it was the same freaking person.
Yeah.
You know, here's my thought on Santos. Santos was a young, shy gay boy that had to stay in the closet, all right? And so he had to lie about everything. And so now he's relevant and everybody's talking about him. Come out, dude. Just come out already. I mean, it's ridiculous. It really is.
And that was video of him in Brazil.
Yes.
When the video that he said didn't exist, and the persona that he said did not exist back
They've
in the
got
day.
him red-handed. There's all kinds of various forms of documentation.
One word for you, sir.
Yeah.
Busted!
You know, one thing that I will say is, first off, he's not a good drag queen. Let's get that off the table. I know a little on this subject.
Drag queens, if it doesn't work for you, you can become a congressman.
Yes, exactly. Alaska, run for office. Bianca, run for office. You know, the one thing I think is interesting about this story is this is gay on gay hate. One congressman from California is calling for a petition to throw out another congressman from Long Island, from New York, out of Congress. Now, while we may think that that's funny, it really isn't funny. First off, I think is reflective of, wait, we want more representation. This is not the way that we get more and better representation. But beyond that, could you imagine there's no chance in the world that this will happen. First off, no chance in the world. Whether you love I was going to say DeSantos, whether you love Santos or hate Santos, it's not going to happen.
Why?
It's not going to happen because they will never be able to get a majority of votes in the House of Representatives. But even censure is difficult. Maybe they'll get censure, but removal is impossible. Okay. It just couldn't happen. But beyond that, you wouldn't want that. You just simply wouldn't want that. Think about what goes on in Florida. The Republicans have a supermajority. And what if Santos goes, you know, I don't like Chevron Jones anymore. I want him out of the Senate. Let's have the Senate pass in majority to remove Chevron Jones. He was elected by his electorate in Miami-Dade County. The voters placed him in that position. And then a group of other elected officials from other districts get together and say, let's remove him. It's as anti-democratic as you can get. And frankly, in my opinion, the California congressman is as anti-democratic as you possibly can get. And unless there's a criminal action, which there is not, and maybe
so lying is not a criminal action.
Not a criminal action by any stretch. And in this situation, he's elected by the constituents in Long Island. They are the only ones that make the decision of who's going to be their representation in Congress, not other congressmen.
So I will buy that, and hopefully in the next election, because they've been lied to, they will throw his butt right out. But I mean,
and hope for the same thing in 2024 when Donald Trump runs for president of the United States.
How much time does Ms. Lies-A-Lot have on the...
in 2024, no, 2 years.
Okay.
2024, he'll be up again.
I don't know what to
But I mean, it's so blatant what he's done that I think that it's not completely undemocratic to say you don't get to keep your seat if you lied to everybody. You literally lied
about everything.
Nothing. You're not the person that ran. We don't even know if it's your real name. Kind of. You almost want to take it to that place of like, you're not who you said you are.
You know, and while I don't disagree with that, the whole story is completely sad, because where were the Republicans to fact check the situation when he's running in a primary? He won a Democratic seat. Yes. The Democrats lost that seat. Where were the Democrats to do the amount of investigation that
and
they
I would
did?
disagree with you on the gay hate there, because we don't want to be represented as a community by someone who's a liar that's taken high office.
Yeah.
So I agree. You know, I'm all about, we shouldn't be hating on ourselves. You know, there's been a lot of that controversy the last couple of weeks with Pride of Americas. But in this case, you know, you're not representing any of us well. Yeah. You're actually going national to give us a bad reputation that we're not good people.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Okay.
Well, we move on and we queer up gay culture. Tweets about being single and gay on Valentine's Day. We're approaching the most cloyingly sweet holiday of the year. But if Cupid has lost track of your Grindr handle, you're not alone. Plenty of gays are spending Valentine's Day solo. Queerty.com has compiled some funny tweets about spending February 14th as party of one. One user posts, chaotic single gays. Does anyone fancy ruining a bunch of people's Valentine's Days by booking out every other seat in the cinema? I just think it'd be a bit funny. Another tweet said, roses are red and it's Valentine's Day. So hey there, ladies, I'm single and gay. Many such funny posts are flooding social media platforms, and we think this Valentine's Day is going to be quite on the quirky side of the internet. And what first off, booking out an entire theater is still expensive. So what I would do, but you can get it done for half the price. Book every other seat.
That's what he said, John. You didn't see what you read, bro?
Oh, no, I thought he said book out. Oh, I thought he meant book out every other seat.
No, okay, let me explain it to you. So the single person, right?
Okay, so that makes
the
sense.
couple can't sit together.
I thought they meant book out every other seat
No, wait,
the one
wait.
you're in.
Watch the light bulb go off.
Oh, no, it did. It just,
No. Beyond that.
You should
beyond
stop
that.
while you're ahead.
So what is your bitter, hateful, single meme going to be for Valentine's Day?
None. I love love. Al, I love love.
I love you too, John. I love you.
Listen, whatever. Valentine's
I'll see
Day.
you all at the singles table.
It's a horrible holiday.
Valentine's Day sucks. Valentine's Day is for novices, all right? V-Day all the way. Let's celebrate vaginas tomorrow instead of Valentine's Day.
What? Oh, what?
There. I mean, why not? Listen, at the end of the day,
can celebrate that on L
My
Day.
household will not be celebrating vagina. I'm just
look,
saying.
Teresa and I call it Novice Day, okay? That's the day that you go out. We're not going to some restaurant where it's going to be super booked and your food's going to be 3 hours late unless you go to Bona, which is always on time with great service. Have their garlic rolls. Share a dessert.
There's still time open around between 4:45 and 6. After that, good luck.
Oh, it's a big day for you at Bona?
Big day for all restaurants.
But it's all two tops. But Wilton Menace, I said two tops. But people do drink more and do buy dessert on Valentine's Day.
And no criticism. I embrace the capitalism, but it's a holiday that's created by chocolates and wines
Okay, let's
and
understand.
diamond companies.
Let's understand why you embrace this holiday, Al, because you have a husband, a boyfriend, and 2 other dudes you see. So that's why you embrace this holiday.
Right.
The rest of us screw Valentine's Day, all right?
Screw
Don't buy me no chocolates, all right? Next, we are proud of our partnership with Sunshine Cathedral, the world's largest queer church right here in Fort Lauderdale. Supporting that partnership, we are broadcasting from our permanent set here at Sunshine Cathedral at the Happening Out Television Studios. We broadcast Sunshine Cathedral Sunday International Service at 10:30 a.m. every week.
I'm Matthew Darren, former American Idol contestant and singer-songwriter, and Sunshine Cathedral is my queer church.
Well, Fox News, my buddy Tucker Carlson, and radical conservatives have suggested that the LGBTQ plus community has a secret plan, and we can only guess it's for world domination. And we couldn't agree more. And we are going to tell you all about it in our segment called The Gay Agenda.
We're going to start with me on this one. In The Gay Agenda, we queer up sports, something I know nothing about. Antonio and JVN Queer Eye Super Bowl commercial. Queer Eye cast members Antonio Porowatsky and Jonathan Van Ness are 2 of the celebrities featured in the latest Super Bowl commercials from a partnership between General Motors and Netflix. During an interview with Out Porowski and JVN talked about Netflix and GM's joint initiative, how excited they are to appear in Super Bowl commercials, and shared the latest status of Queer Eye Season 7, even dropping hints about what fans can expect from the season. Besides Queer Eye's JVN and Porowski, these various commercials featured Netflix stars like Vanessa Lakey and Priya Ferguson, as well as the iconic masked characters from Squid Game.
General Motors is going electric, and Netflix is joining in by including more EVs in their movies and shows. It's the least they can do. So if you're going to get swarmed by an army of the dead, why not get swarmed in an EV? No! I said no biting! Or if you're being voluntarily kidnapped, why not be kidnapped in an EV? What's that scent? Is it pine? Now, should they add EVs everywhere? They shalln't. They shan't. Is it shallant or shan't?
It's neither.
What about here, Erica?
You're ruining the show, you idiot.
What do you mean? It's me, Dusty.
You're not.
Yeah, you're right. This is ridiculous.
Tammy, wait! Later, loser!
But anywhere else it makes sense.
There goes another runner.
Brad was so much better for you. You should have gone with Brad.
Yeah, Brad. Are you serious?
Why not make more of those cars electric? It's the least they can do. Gordon, you kill me. I mean, you literally did kill me. You know what? I'm glad you bit me too.
Next up in the gay agenda, we queer up the worldview. Mussolini's granddaughter comes out swinging for LGBTQ plus rights. The granddaughter of Italian fascist Benito Mussolini has made a 180-degree shift from anti-LGBTQ plus bigot to ally. Mussolini's grandfather, dictator Benito Mussolini, famously sent gay men labeled degenerate to an island off of Italy's coast in an effort to rid the country of them and protect the image of fascism. His granddaughter, it seems, is choosing a different path from her notable relative. Mussolini backed the bill to combat homophobia in the country. The law, known as the Zan Bill, sought to punish acts of discrimination and incitement to violence against gay, lesbian, transgender, and disabled people, as well as making misogyny a hate crime. In an interview with The Times, she said, quote, "People can change. You can learn from the young," end quote.
In the gay agenda, we queer up sports. After Super Bowl, Rihanna and Fenty aim Cupid's arrow at LGBTQ+.
En Tailandia. Fue un concurso, nos hizo conocernos ahí. Ahí fue que empezó la conexión y fuimos literalmente inseparables, aunque éramos competencia.
Sí. En ese momento nos fue uniendo poquito a poquito, los detalles, que si el café acá, que sí, pero todo fue fluyendo, pero se convirtió en una amistad muy bonita que al sol de hoy la tenemos más todavía como esposa, con pareja, y eso es mágico, encontrar una persona así en la vida. Yo digo mi chocolatito. Yo lo siento como, no sé, como a madera, dulce, pero al mismo tiempo suave.
Huele rico.
¿Te gusta?
Sí, bastante.
Very cute. Valentine's Day is around the corner and love is in the air. But if that wasn't enough to interest and entice you, Miss Mariana Varela, who is Miss Argentina, and Fabiola Valentine, who is Miss Puerto Rico, have joined the campaign for Rihanna's new Fenty perfume and are sharing their own love story. It was just this past year that the two beauty queens revealed that they were married to each other in an Instagram post from Valentine. In the ad, they share how they met at a pageant in Thailand and fell in love, even though they were competing against each other at the time.
In the gay agenda, we queer up entertainment. Bella Ramsey can't wait to go full gay on The Last of Us. On the heels of the well-received gay romance depicted in a recent episode of The Last of Us, Bella Ramsey is looking forward to their own character's upcoming lesbian storyline. The gender-fluid actor has said that they're really excited to portray Ellie's queer arc, which may kick off as early as the current season. The love story Ramsey is referring to comes from the video game's 2020 sequel, The Last of Us Part 2. 5 years after its predecessor's events, the game starts with the aftermath of a kiss between Ellie and her longtime friend Nena. Just as the two are overcoming their awkwardness and settling into a budding romance, tragedy strikes, forcing them on a journey for revenge against a group of rival survivors in Seattle.
In the gay agenda, we queer up entertainment. Here's what to know about Knock at the Cabin hunk, Jonathan Groff. Knock at the Cabin, released this month, is garnering a lot of attention. One of the leading characters of the film, Eric, who is played by Jonathan Groff, has made him the talk of the town. His successful acting career spans his big screen, television, and Broadway performances. Groff is a recipient of a Grammy Award, a nominee for 2 Tony Awards, and a Primetime Emmy Award, among other prestigious accolades. Groff got skin cancer in his 20s, but it was removed. He also has a 5-inch scar on his biceps, which he got while filming for the season 1 finale of Glee. Groff came out as gay during the National Equality March in 2009. And that is today's news for the LGBTQ+ community on the world's first and only daily LGBTQ+ evening news show.
If our community is important to you, share this news with your friends and family. Are you, like most of America, part of our very large television audience, watching this live LGBTQ+ news broadcast right now on Roku, Apple TV, Android TV, and Amazon Fire TV?
Queer News Tonight is the only live LGBTQ+ digital television show in the world that is out of the closet and into the headlines. We need your support. If our community is to grow, we must tell our stories and bring them to the attention of the broader world.
This is the only place in the world that tells these types of LGBTQ+ stories in motion and sound. That is the passion of Hotspots Magazine, Happening Out Television Network, and Queer News Tonight.
I'm your anchor, Al Ferguson, and on behalf of these LGBTQ+ reporters, the anchors of Queer News Tonight, including FayWhat, Glen Weinzimer, DJ Nena, and John Hayden. We will see you daily at 8 p.m. And to our LGBTQ+ world, we wish you
good night.
LGBTQ+ news is vital for our community and for the broader world as a whole. We have enough enemies at Fox News. Tucker, Sean, and Lara are loud. We need passionate allies. Happening Out Television Network, Queer News Tonight, and It's Happening Out are literally out of the closet and into the headlines. Our community needs your support. Like this broadcast and subscribe now to ensure the growth of the entire LGBTQ+ community.